opportunities for PSPs is the water-backed coal opportunity for domestic and export market. There are very large reserves of coal in the waterback that are now beginning to be exploited, and so we will need rail capacity there, but the way that we want to develop it is with the assistance of the private sector in private sector participation. Iron ore expansion to support the increase in the demand for export iron ore, the Ngquha container terminal, equipping of the remaining 2 berths, and the inland terminals at City Deep, Kazene, and Pretoria, the replacement of the terminals and upgrading of the terminals. There has been talk of PSPs for several years, and in fact I think PSPs have been introduced, but I mean, I don't think that you will generally get Transnet calling a press conference or a conference and saying, I think it will be on a case by case rather than just saying, yeah, here's our PSP whatever. So I mean, Richards Bay Coal Terminal is probably our biggest PSP, and there have been other PSPs that have been introduced. For example, we are now talking about doing a PSP in East London, the grain elevator, involving the private sector and so on, and we will do PSPs, considering PSPs on rail and so on and so forth. So it is something that is ongoing on a case by case. There are PSPs, as I said, when in terms of the local content with respect to the locomotives that we are putting in. But I get worried when people approach PSPs from an ideological point of view. In my experience, I've been a treasury official working with these state-owned entities. We've done some spectacular deals with the private sector that we've had to reverse because they didn't work, like sale of SAA to Swiss Air, like the sale of the airport to the Romans. That deal had to be unwound as soon as we won. As soon as we won the World Cup bid, because they were not prepared to put in the capital, and the deal was reversed. The PIC bought the shares back and allowed the development of the airports to take place. And now you see, with 100%, well, with almost 100%, the PIC and state-owned airports company, all these airports that you see in the Republic at the moment, that were delivered in time for the World Cup. The Romans were simply not prepared to do it, and that didn't work. Telkom, introduction of a strategic equity partner, Telkom 1996, 97, a colossal disaster. And when they moved out, the exit was very messy, and I ended up being accused of all sorts of things in my capacity at the PIC, but we've tried to clean that up as well. The listing of Telkom, and I mean the value that the strategic equity partner added at Telkom is not quite visible. Instead, in the process, I mean, the relationship with Vodafone got worse, and we had to get rid of our shares in Vodacom, and now Telkom is starting their own data. So yeah, so I mean, we mustn't be romantic about these PSPs. I certainly am not, and I take them with not a pinch, maybe a teaspoon or a tablespoon of salt when we do them. We have to be very vigilant when we do these things, because we must acknowledge, from a theoretical point of view, there is something that people sometimes, especially neoclassical economists, tend to ignore, a thing called market failure. Just as much as there's government failure, there is market failure. So we don't want to rush into these things and be failed by the market. Having said that, we are not violently opposed to them, so we will consider them on a case by case and where opportunities arise.